Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Are you wondering what's working in SEO right now? What does the Google algorithm want from your website? How does all the new technology like AI writing affect blog content? How do you do your SEO page settings in Showit in a way that will actually work? We are covering it all today and a whole lot more in today's interview with Sara Dunn from Sara Does SEO. So Sara is a wealth of information when it comes to SEO, and I personally just really love how she so clearly explains things. I actually worked with her and her team a few years ago in my own business for SEO help and like revamping some stuff in my own business and really optimizing my site. And I can attest that she's the real deal and was incredible to work with. And I learned a lot about SEO through that process. So whether you're someone who you're like, hey, I already have a lot of advanced knowledge of SEO, or if you're like, I'm totally new to it, what even is SEO? Let's define that. There is something for you in this interview. We go from like some beginner stuff to some advanced stuff and all over the place. So seriously, first website, second website, whether you're first on Google or if you're like, I don't even know if I rank on Google, this episode is for you. I think you guys are going to love this. Let's talk about SEO on Showit in 2023. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Sara. All right, guys, I am thrilled to welcome to the podcast Sara Dunn from Sara Does SEO, who I personally have worked with a few years ago now, which is so crazy because it feels like to me it was just yesterday that we were doing that big SEO project, but it's been a little bit. And I'm just thrilled to share her with you guys because she is a wealth of knowledge in SEO. And I feel like I learn from you every week in your emails. And I'm like, I literally think it was like one of the emails you sent last year. I was like, I got to get her on the podcast to talk about this more and to really dive into SEO stuff. So anyway, welcome to the podcast, Sara.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate the invitation and any invitation to chat with you. I think today is going to be really fun and I'm glad we could do it.
Yes. Yeah. So tell everyone a little bit about you, what you do, who you serve, where you live, that kind of stuff.
Well, I join you today from my office in Southwest Michigan. So I work from home in Southwest Michigan as a wedding industry SEO specialist. So most of my clients are in the wedding industry, which means that I actually study how engaged couples search online every single day. And then I help wedding industry businesses to get found on Google when those people are searching. So my business is called Sara Does SEO, but it's actually not just me anymore. I actually have a team of amazing women in SEO who help our clients optimize their websites. So this has been something that I've been doing since 2017, and it's a little bit of breaking news that in 2023, I'm actually going to start providing workshops and SEO education for web designers as well, because that's actually my background in web development. And so I'm excited to coach another group of people in how to help their clients get found on Google.
Oh, I love that. And that's so needed. I know you know that it's like, yeah, web designers, we need to also know SEO. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so okay, to start though, and we'll keep this part really quick because I know in a lot of listeners, you guys probably are familiar with SEO. So Sara and I are actually going to approach this conversation a little bit like, hey, you understand this concept. You clicked play on this because you know it's important for your business. But if you are someone who's like, wait, what is SEO? Or even someone who's like, wait, I know it's important, but like, I don't even know how to define that if someone were to ask me. How would you define SEO, Sara?
Well, I'm glad we're starting here because I always try to have a no stupid questions approach to SEO. And I think part of that is actually explaining what it means. Even if someone's heard the phrase before, let's just back it up and make sure they know it stands for search engine optimization. And that basically is the art of influencing Google to show your website or your business higher up in the search results for free. So what we're not talking about, what I don't do, is actually paying for ads on Google. We're talking about the exposure you can get for $0 just by doing the right things to help Google understand your website or your content is the best content on the internet for what someone is searching for. And that's what's really fun about it, because you can bring in so much traffic over multiple years for $0 if this is something that you do well.
Yes, I love that. And I love that definition. And I know, you know, from like working together that like I've always cared about SEO being a traffic source for my business, but it's so amazing when like someone buys from you and the question of like, where did you first hear about me? The answer is Google search, or it's amazing when they get more specific and they're like, I searched for this. But generally speaking, when they put Google search, it's just like, it almost feels like traffic and sales you didn't have to work for, even though you did work on the SEO side. But it's different because it's not like you were, you didn't actively sell them on a webinar necessarily, or on a sales call, or through like making tons of reels on Instagram. It's like it happened more organically with SEO. So I love that.
Yes. Well, and what I love too is it's not that kind of active work, like something that you're doing every single day to stay visible. It's something that you can do. And if you set up your SEO right, you can actually have content from 4 years ago that's still working for you today. Elizabeth, you probably have that in your business. Things you wrote, things you created multiple years ago are still bringing you traffic and business this year. And that's kind of magical.
Yes. Yeah, actually, Sarah, I have a question on that I think some people might be wondering who are in that boat you just said. Like maybe we have a blog post that's say 4 years old and it still ranks for like some keys, things like high up on the first page. Is it a bad idea to update that? Or should we, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I can sometimes be like, I'm afraid to touch it because it's working. But then I know there are things you could add to make it better. So like, should we be updating those posts that are working really well but are old?
I love this question because I just did this morning. So I actually have a blog post from 2018 that's called 5 Questions to Ask Your Web Designer About SEO. And some of it I was like, you know what? I would phrase this differently, or I've actually got another question I want to add to this list. And it's totally fine and actually a great idea to update and refresh your old content, especially if you're like, hey, I don't actually agree with some of this advice anymore, or I've changed in the way that I explain this. It's a great idea to update old content. And if you're adding to it and truly improving the quality of that content, it's really unlikely that you're going to mess something up where Google's going to actually stop ranking the content.
Okay. And when we update it, do you think it's good to change the publish date? Or change it, like leave the original published date and then add like the updated date? What would you say is best there?
So the way I look at this, if you've made some sort of like real major refresh or overhaul, or you've truly read through the whole thing and you're like, I think this is accurate for today, update the publish date. That's what I did with my post this morning. I was like, I want people to know that this is accurate information as of today. So I changed it from 2018 to 2023. And I also wanted that visibility back at the top of my blog feed too. So I think it's totally fine to change the publish date. You don't have to, especially if you just go in and like tweak a few things and you're like, this is really still 2018 kind of advice. But I would use the publish date that you feel reflects when the content was accurate. Okay.
I love that. And that is a great way to like, freshen up and bump it to the top. I was literally on your website this morning and saw that post. And I'm like, oh, Sarah wrote a new post. But it's like, oh, you're saying that was actually really old, but you just updated
really
it, which that's awesome. Cause then it still is like working to like, cause to me, it's new, and to a potential client or customer, it's new. So yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So to talk about Showit specifically, I'm wondering, I guess first question, I'd love to walk through like the description SEO settings on a page, but for people using Showit, What things would you say with Showit in particular should we be paying attention to make sure it's not hurting our SEO, but instead helping it?
Yes. Well, and I think we should have that conversation, like, does Showit hurt our SEO? Because so many people come to me and the question is like, Sara, what platform should I be using if I care about SEO? And my answer is actually whatever platform you enjoy using and will keep updated, because that is the most important thing to your SEO, that you don't let your website go stale. And I know Showit helps so many creative people to feel like, oh, I can update my own website. I can put things where I want them. So Showit is great. And we have certainly, as a team, ranked many sites that are on Showit on the first page of Google. So everything you need is there. And Showit definitely thinks about SEO in the way that they build their platform. So the one thing that I want you to pay the most attention to is that SEO settings panel, which is over on the right side of the Showit app when you are editing your website on your computer. So it is one of those panels over on the right side, the second to last one above advanced settings. And you can open that panel up and you'll see a few things, but the most important things are the page title and meta description. Should we dig into those a little bit?
Perfect. Yeah, let's dig into those. So yeah, page title, and that's actually changed some. It used to have more options. So that's even a recent, I guess last year was, or maybe the year before, is when Showit got rid of some of the options there. But yeah, so let's start with the page title. What would you say we should think about? And maybe even we can talk through like the difference we should think about on like a home page versus an about page or a service page.
Yes. So I think with these two things, it's actually really helpful to think about them with their output instead of like what you're putting in. So when you enter these things, where do they actually end up? And so I want you to imagine the Google search results page. We've all seen it. You know, it's white and there's just a bunch of listings on there with blue clickable links and then some text below. So what I want you to think about is that page titles are usually what would end up being the blue clickable link for your website or piece of content in the Google search results. And then the meta description is usually what ends up being that couple lines of text that shows up right under the clickable link that entices someone to click on your website and explains to them what they'll get if they do click through. So with that context, so you can kind of imagine what those end up looking like, we can then think about what they need to be, what you need to enter into Showit. And the page title is one of the most important things that Google actually looks at to figure out what the topic of your page is. What is this content actually about? And so I always recommend, if you have selected a keyword for that page, so there's maybe a certain keyword you're thinking about that is a good fit for that content, or if it's your homepage, what's a good keyword that's a fit for your business? That is where we want to see that keyword used. So for me, it might be wedding industry SEO is a keyword for my homepage. So in the page title box, I would write wedding industry SEO, and then some sort of separator like a dash, and then my business name. Usually the brand name goes at the end. So that would be a good page title for the home page because it includes a keyword that I want to rank for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And with that, do you think the business name should be in the page title for every single page or just for the home page?
We put it at the end of every single page title. Different SEOs do that in different ways, but we always end the page title with the business name at the end. It's just a common best practice and helps to make sure that Google indexes all of your content.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yeah, love that. And then also in Showit, they do they tell you when you get past the optimal amount of characters. So for page title, I believe it's 60. Is that correct, Sarah? That Showit's telling you to get to? Yeah.
So I don't spend a lot of time
60.
thinking about the limit.
So how much over do we go? Like how much is too much over?
Here's what's really interesting. Showit and a lot of other SEO tools will tell you some sort of warning about your character limit. Like this title is beyond the visible length that Google is actually going to show. But here's the thing. Numerous studies have actually showed that words, even if they aren't visible in the SEO title, can actually help the content to rank higher. So I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the visual limit because Google will actually choose the portion of your page title that it thinks is most relevant for the searcher. So I might include 2 keyword phrases in some of my page titles, even if that makes it a little bit too long.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and when you do what you're saying, it just ends up basically doing like the and then when you think about the blue text, it has a little ... But you're saying like they might even change it from what you have put, and they might reorder it, or it's still helping you regardless. That's a really good perspective there. Let's talk about the meta description. So under the page title, what are some best practices there?
Okay. So common mistake I see with meta descriptions is that people use the same description for every page on their website. Like they write a general description of their whole business and then they just copy and paste that everywhere. And that's not what we want you to do. That's not what Google's looking for, because Google's trying to get more information about what is the actual content of this page that it's on. So we don't want to just describe your business if this is your services page. We want to actually talk about what services you offer in that SEO or meta description. So you want it to be unique to each page. So that's something to think about as you're writing these for each page of your Showit website. And then the other thing to think about is that you want it to be kind of interesting or enticing. So don't think about it like boring copy, like I'm just going to put a bunch of keywords in here, or I'm going to just write something and mail it in that's like 4 words long. This is actually your opportunity to sell someone on clicking on your website right in the search results, because you haven't necessarily won just by showing up on page 1. You win by attracting that person onto your website. And that might take a little bit of a sales spin to your meta description. So can you write something about your services that encourages people to click and find out more? Like if you're a wedding planner, for example, and you're trying to write a meta description for your services page, can you say, we offer the most comprehensive wedding planning services in Nashville for couples who are looking for something sophisticated and timeless. So it's, it's not boring. It like talks a little bit about the brand and what's special about them and actually encourages someone to click through. So be unique, be creative, and do a little bit of selling in your meta descriptions.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Okay, so with the image then, also looking at, so the page image we are picking for SEO, still in those SEO settings, how should we pick the image? And a second question with that too, when we're picking the orientation of the image, do you have a preference towards horizontal or vertical images?
Yes. So the last setting there in the SEO panel on Showit is your share image. And this has more to do with kind of visual branding than really SEO. It might not necessarily help you show up higher, but it might help entice a click. So Google more and more is showing little images in the search results, depending on what that search is. And so you want a share image that's kind of eye-catching and encapsulates what that page is about. So you want to choose a share image that is probably an image that's used on the page. So when someone clicks through, there's that little bit of consistency. Okay, I clicked on the right place. This was the image that brought me here. Show me more. So I like to choose an image that's on the page. And I do prefer an image that's horizontal, but looks good cropped square. So horizontal, the share image is also going to be used in places like when your page is shared on Facebook. And usually that comes in as like a horizontal image. And then Google in a lot of places will crop it square. So it still needs to make sense when cropped in a square. I almost never select a vertical share image. In most places, that's going to get cropped. So I tend to lean toward horizontal if you've got a good one.
Yes, I like that. And I agree with that. And also it's what shows up on a text message, Instagram DM, like you said, Facebook. And that's where like it matters more because it's less of a private thing. It's like, yeah, someone shares this link that horizontally is going to show up that way. But yeah, thinking about it as something on the page. I like that. So it doesn't feel like disjointed when someone clicks in from that. Okay. Another question for you that's pretty particular to Showit because not all website builders do it this way. But let's say we're on our Showit website. We have an image on our about page. When you click on the image, we see an option to add in the, let's see, what is it called? The SEO title and image description in Showit. And that's different than what we've titled the image before we uploaded it. What should we be doing with that whole section?
Yes. Okay. So whether it's an image block or a gallery, you'll get this option for like a description box. And I get asked so much, like, what is the SEO title box versus the description box? I want all Showit users to know that if you ever heard anyone talk about alt text, that actually comes from the description box. So a little misleading. It doesn't come from what's called the SEO title there in your settings panel. So the description is what actually gets output as alt text. And that's the most important piece for Google. So what I want you to do with this and how I want you to think about this is actually describing what's shown in the image, maybe in a way that hints towards your keywords. So for my clients, a lot of them want to just write every single image description as like their most important keyword, Nashville wedding planner. And they want to put that as the alt text of every image. I'm like, that's not a description of what's shown in the image. We want to help the search engine actually have more context about what this is. So you could write something. Let's imagine that it is a photo of a group of bridesmaids. Maybe you write in the description, bridesmaids at Nashville wedding. Or something like that, that still hints at your location, but is a little bit more accurate to what's actually shown in the image. So anyone maintaining a Showit website, it's great to go to that description box and customize the description as if you couldn't see the image, how would you describe it? And most of the time, for me, for the title box, I just copy the same thing in there. So that's generally what I do.
The exact same as the description. Okay. Cool. And let's also real quick while we're on images, I know it's hard since we're not doing this visually, but so when people get our images back from a photographer, it might be called img-0985.jpg or something to that effect. I always talk, and this is in the Showit Blueprint course trainings on like, before you put the images in, please rename them because you can't rename them once they're in Showit. You can start over again by re-uploading them, but like the name is what the name is once it's in your media library. So what would you say we should be doing when we name the images? What are some do's and don'ts for SEO there?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked because I spend a lot of time for my clients downloading images from Showit, renaming them something helpful, and uploading them because they're all called img5768.jpg. So for anyone just listening, we're talking about the literal image file name as you see it on your computer when you've opened up a folder. And Google actually looks at that because that becomes part of the image code in the way that Google reads it. So Google asks us specifically in the Webmaster Guidelines to use image file names that are actually short but descriptive of the content of the image. So it's actually very similar to what I just talked about with alt text or that image description. An ideal image file name actually describes the content of the image itself. So if you want to, you can do kind of a batch rename to describe if there's like a phrase that would describe all the images. Maybe it's Nashville-wedding.jpg. You could batch rename. That's better than uploading IMG 5768. But if you want to go next level and really do the most you can for your SEO, you can actually do a custom image name for each image that's more descriptive of the content of that image. So bridesmaids-wedding-Nashville.jpg would be a good one for a group of bridesmaids at a Nashville wedding.
Does that help? I love that advice. Yes. And I think too, something I want people to hear from what you just said, it's a hyphen dividing the words. You can't just capitalize the beginning. Because I know for us, it's like if we capitalize the first letter in each word, we can read it, but Google's going to read that all as one word. And a hyphen is better than an underscore. A dash is another way we could call that, but that's better than underscore. Is that right, Sarah?
Yes. I always do that dash or hyphen character between words. And I know that's, this is one of those things that's really hard when we're just talking it out. But if you can kind of Google information about alt text and image file names and see it, you will get it.
Yes. Yeah, we can put something, I'll put something in the blog post for this episode to like show you a visual of like, this is bad, this is good, here's what we mean there. Yes. Okay. I absolutely love that. So let's talk about 2023 and changes that have happened in Google algorithm land, because SEO is constantly changing. I mean, gosh, who knows how frequently they're making updates, but what have you seen like that's working well now or that isn't working anymore but used to work?
Okay. So 2023, like what is going to work on Google? There has been a big push in the way that Google is trying to rank websites toward emphasizing helpful, unique content that's based on personal experience. So what Google wants to do more than anything is help people to find really unique and helpful information that they can't find anywhere else. And so what's not working anymore is just kind of writing the plain blah vanilla that's kind of like what everyone else has online. You really need to find an interesting perspective or show that you have personal experience with a topic in order for Google to trust you as the source of that information. And so I have an example of this. I've actually been working with a bridal shop client. And they've been seeing decreased rankings for the designers they carry. So they're like, we want to rank when people search for Vera Wang. I'm like, awesome, cool. So I look at the page on their website that's about their brand, Vera Wang, and it's the exact same content you could find on any other bridal shop that carries that designer. It's a stock photo from their last collection. It is the stock description of the designer that's pulled straight from their website, and then a gallery of their current dresses in the inventory, all stock photos. I'm like, of course, these are dropping in the rankings because nothing here is actually of unique value. And there's nothing here that shows that you all have personal experience. I could create this page and pretend I was a bridal shop. Like there's nothing here that actually proves that you are a legit bridal shop that carries this designer. So what are we doing instead? We're actually working toward making these pages unique, and we're getting unique images of their actual inventory. We're having their stylists write quotes about why they love the designer. So these are people that have actual personal experience with the content. We are putting in quotes from real brides who've worn that designer, who are clients of this shop. And then we're also embedding video, because video is unique content. It's hard to fake. Like these are videos of gowns that are in their shop. So that is what Google wants to see, unique content, not just things that are scraped from all over the internet that anybody could come up with.
I love that. And I thank you for that example too, to make it really applicable there. So yeah, helpful, unique, personal experience content. And I can see how that would be something that we'd want to be able to emphasize. It feels like to me, I'm like, how are they able to like tell? But I don't even know if you know how to explain that or if anyone does. But yeah, that's cool.
I mean, it's easy for Google as a robot that scanned billions of websites to go, oh, this paragraph of text is on 100 other websites. Yeah. So this isn't unique. Yeah. So that part of it's pretty easy. It's easy for actually now Google's getting better at scanning images where they can say, oh, this image seems to only exist here rather than be a stock image that's on 1,000 other places. So that uniqueness is truly very important. And I think you can also see, and what's interesting about this is if you stop thinking about the robot and you actually think about the visitor you're trying to attract, how much more interesting is this new page for someone who's considering a Vera Wang wedding dress versus the old one, which had no unique value. Now we have like real opinions about the designer. We have video they can watch. It's just better content for the end user, the person who's going to click. And that's what we want more than anything. And that's what Google wants too. So I think when you think about it from the human perspective, instead of just the robot perspective, sometimes SEO makes a lot more sense.
Want a website that's set up behind the scenes to help you rank higher on Google? My Showit website templates can help. One thing a lot of people don't realize about website templates is that if the designer set things up sloppy on the back end, even if they did not mean to, it can totally hurt your SEO. I'm talking about things like your heading settings, which is called advanced tagging in Showit, the way your canvases are set up, the stacking order of your objects, how much opportunity there is to have text on a page. All that technical stuff that you're probably like, what are you even talking about, Elizabeth? And you also are probably like, I don't even want to be thinking about that when I'm building my website. I totally get it. So I've thought about it all and double checked myself, had team members double check me multiple times so that you don't have to think about it. And so that these templates are just built to help you rank on Google with your SEO. So you can find all of my SEO friendly website templates at elizabethmccravey.com/shop. There are sales pages, podcast pages, full website templates, and so much more waiting for you there. And as a Breakthrough Brand podcast listener, you can actually use the code BBPodcast for 10% off any template. Just enter that in the coupon code box and you'll get 10% off any template, any payment plan. So get your website template and then apply what Sara and I are talking about in today's episode, and you'll be ready to set sail to the first page of Google with your SEO. So again, that's BB Podcast for 10% off, and that code and the link are in the show notes. Now back to my conversation with Sara. And writing from that perspective too is so helpful because we want people to not only land on it, but then to actually read it. And when it sounds like you literally are just trying to put, Nashville wedding photographer, like every other sentence, it's like, okay, we get it. Like this is written for Google and now we're here reading it and it doesn't read very well. Actually, I'd love to ask you with that, like thinking about those kind of examples, because I think sometimes, and I can almost be this way when I'm trying to write for SEO, we can kind of try to keyword stuff and like write more for Google than we are for the audience. How do we like find the natural balance between those two things?
So I want to encourage you that Google really understands synonyms now. And so it's so much less about repeating the exact same phrase over and over again. Like we're not going into my bridal shop page and putting Vera Wang wedding dress, Vera Wang wedding dress, Vera Wang wedding dress. We're saying like Vera Wang bridal. We're saying bridal gowns by Vera Wang. All of these things, because you're not repeating the same phrase over and over again, help the page to really read better. But Google still understands the topic of this page when we're saying things that are really similar, synonyms of our keyword phrase. So I usually tell clients, like, you don't have to write like you're a robot. I don't like to talk about keyword density, which is the idea of repeating the same phrase a certain number of times per number of words, because that is robotic. I'm like, let's make the topic really clear in the first paragraph and then write whatever you want. And you will naturally use the phrases you need to for Google to understand your content.
I love that. Yeah, if it's focused content, like you're saying, even with that Vera Wang example, it's like there is a focus for that page. And if you're writing a blog that has a true focus, you kind of naturally use the right words. without trying to stuff them. Okay, I have a dun-dun question for you. But, AI stuff is like, oh gosh, it feels like it literally just popped up overnight is like the thing everyone's talking about. But people, for those of you who have not heard about this, are using these different softwares, I guess is the right name for them, to help write blog posts where you can literally be like, write a blog post about Showit website templates. And then all of a sudden it's writing a blog post for you. Let's talk about that first of all, of like, how's that even affecting your job, Sara? And then like, how do you think this is changing search and like, what should we do and not do with it? Just all the things.
Yes. People like to make like grand, scary statements like AI is the end of Google. And I definitely understand that every time something new comes out, it changes the way that people behave online. And I actually recommend anybody who's listening to this that hasn't played with a tool like ChatGPT, which is free, go and check it out and see how it works because it's absolutely fascinating. You can truly put in any type of prompt and this tool will return to you any type of answer. It'll write you a poem. My husband had it write me a love poem that was like the sweetest thing I've ever received. And I was like, I don't even care that I know AI wrote this because you still put the prompt in. And at some level, I think we need to think about it that way. Like we control the prompts as humans and we also need to control the output. So let's think about what we were just talking about, which was that Google's now emphasizing unique content based on personal experience. Why do you think they're doing that? Because AI will then have less of an impact. AI can only scrape the information that is already available on the internet. So it's important to think about what do we bring to our content from a human perspective and how can we make what we're doing unique? Also, how can we do that with the support of AI? So here's what I don't recommend that anyone do. Actually go to an AI writing tool and give it a prompt and make it write a 500-word blog post about something and then go copy and paste and then just publish it. This is not what we want to do. Everyone in SEO pretty much believes Google is going to try to suppress content that was directly written by AI. But can we use the tool to maybe help us write an introduction to a post if we're struggling with that? Can we use the tool to maybe outline a blog post and give us some ideas for sections that we haven't thought of? You can say to a tool like ChatGPT, outline a blog post about Showit website templates and include common questions people have. Cool. Okay. That really helps you jumpstart the content that you're then going to write as a person and put your own spin on. Maybe you have it write a few paragraphs. Maybe you're super stuck. You're like, okay, write me a paragraph about Showit website templates for photographers. Then I want you to take that and actually edit it using your own voice and add your own opinion, add your own internal links to other content you have. So I'm not against AI writing tools. I think they're very helpful and can really support our efforts to create better, more helpful content for our clients. But we can't just use them to become content factories and put out a bunch of junk that doesn't actually provide unique value.
Yeah. Okay, Sara, I've got to say, I love how you just made the connection between what you're saying Google is prioritizing and AI. I've not heard someone make that connection yet. I think that's super fascinating and makes so much sense. And I question for you about the AI writing. At first, I got to say, I totally agree with you. And I've been trying to like embrace and explore, like, how can I use this as a tool versus like resisting to it? And I think that's a good perspective for us to have. One question I've had though from a like plagiarism / SEO perspective, if I am just telling, you might not even know the answer to this, so feel free to be like, I'm still trying to figure that out too. But let's say we use Jasper as one of them, like, or ChatGPT, like you're saying. And I say, write a blog post about the best Showit templates for coaches. So like my site is one of the ones that ranks for that alongside some other sites. Like, is it just literally going to be taking sentences from like all of our content? And then is that like, what I'm saying? Like where, like, it feels problematic to me, like some of the things we could type in basically.
Yes. From the content creator perspective, I am pretty ticked off about it. And this didn't occur to me until my friend Vin actually went into ChatGPT and he said, write a blog post about SEO for wedding venues. And then he sent me the output. And I was like, that is rude because that is a bunch of stuff I have in my article that ranks #1 on Google for that. And so I don't have a good answer. Yes, AI tools are just going to available content that already exists and they're scraping it and they're rewriting it and they're learning and they're kind of combining content in a lot of cases. And it is frustrating as the content creator whose content is probably being scraped to teach these tools. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if we can do anything about it. I think we probably can't. We just have to keep reaching toward providing more helpful firsthand content. And I also want to add that this might be a place where video really comes in handy because it's kind of hard to copy and steal video. So if you can add a video component to the original content you're creating, that helps to create even more that an AI tool can't just scrape, rewrite, and give to someone else.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Yeah, and with that, I'd love to ask you, with video, like video is a very big thing right now. This year, last year, I feel like it became really big. I feel like it's only becoming bigger. How can we use video to help us with SEO? And also, like, I have my own thoughts on this too, so I want to hear yours. But when it comes to like ranking with video, like what can we do to like help video rank on Google?
Yes. So Google, like all other platforms everyone's hearing about, is making a push toward including more video results because it's what people are interested in. It's the type of content that internet users are consuming. And video really has a place in being a helpful result for a lot of searches. Now, I don't see it a ton in the wedding industry, but for searches that are a lot more like how-tos, you will see a lot of YouTube, especially included right in the Google search results. Because if you're putting in, how to do something, you might want to watch a video as opposed to read an article. So what I would recommend to content creators, if there's a certain topic that you want to be known for, the best thing you can do is actually go search for that phrase and see what type of results Google is serving. We don't do this enough as content creators, actually analyzing the current search results. Everyone's just like, Sarah, I want to rank for this phrase. And I'm like, have you ever looked at the search results for that? Because actually your service isn't a good fit in there. It's not what people actually want. So we have to be really thoughtful if we want to get to page 1 for a certain search. What's there right now? Is Google including video results in this search? If the answer is yes, you should have a video on it too. You should have a better video than what's ranking right now. If Google isn't including video results, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. It just might not be a topic that the algorithm has determined people want to see video. Or it truly might be that no one's created one. So it's kind of like a maybe. So I want you as a content creator to think about, well, would a video add value to this content? Actually showing this or talking it through, would that add value to the end user? And then consider making video part of an article. As far as like how to get video to show up more, it does in most cases still need written text. So I always like the approach of having a written blog post about something and then embedding a video within that blog post. So it's not like an either or, blogging or video. It's like, let's deliver that same message with 2 different mediums and serve people in both ways. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said about Google search the thing you think you want to rank for. And to add to that, I mean, I think sometimes we get so into our own industry that we might search for something different than our ideal client or customer, like in the way we're personally phrasing it. So doing that is really helpful because I've had stuff where I'm like, oh, this is something I should try to rank for. And I search and it's like, that's clearly not what people who are needing this are searching because the results don't match up and it doesn't really make sense. So we have to like figure out how to rephrase for the ideal client and customer.
I think the other thing to explore when you're like, I don't know if this is something my ideal customer actually searches for. Am I using lingo or am I using their language? I always recommend using the free tool that's called Uber Suggest. It is an SEO tool. It has a pretty generous free program, and you can actually put in a keyword idea and it'll tell you how many times every single month people actually search for that. And you would be shocked the number of times you're like, this is my keyword, and you put it in there and it's like 0. Like literally no one searches for that. In my industry, people get really specific. They're like, Sara, I want to rank for luxury fine art wedding photographer in Nashville. I'm like, let's put that in a keyword tool. That's a big 0. We need to, I know that that's the way that you describe your service, and that's great marketing copy, but it's not a search phrase. So we need to figure out what people actually search for, and there's an app for that.
Yeah, I love Uber Suggest too. So thanks for suggesting that. And with video stuff, a quick question for you there. Like, and I know this is not the way this is not technically what should be our main strategy, because in reality, we want to be ranking our website where our services and products are and where we own the domain, all that kind of stuff. But I found that like sometimes for things that without even trying, a video I post on Facebook might rank for something. Or, Instagram, I feel like it doesn't rank very well. I've had recently some YouTube stuff rank really well. But like with things like Facebook video versus like a TikTok versus Instagram, like are any of those platforms more likely, and YouTube obviously, like are any of them more likely to rank a video than another platform?
Yeah, YouTube is always number one because Google owns YouTube. So as much as possible, Google wants to drive traffic to YouTube. So that is definitely where I would put video if you're strategically trying to use it to get found. But I do see Facebook videos on occasion. I think it's important to make sure that your video, like the description, always includes some sort of call to action to bring people to your website for that reason, because they might rank by accident. And so you want, if someone's going to land on that video, how do you get them to actually go deeper into an experience with you? So think about what content you can link to in the description of any video that you post online.
Yeah. Okay, I love that. And yeah, it is weird. I've had, for me personally, with Facebook, a few old like IGTV style videos I put on there from this podcast, from interviews, have ranked for things relating to my podcast. And so I'm like seeing it in the video section, but it's all Facebook. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting that like that's getting bumped up before even my website about the podcast. So that's why I was kind of curious about that one. Okay, another question for you, and we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but like what SEO strategies do you feel like you're still seeing people use and like think like this is like what they should die on, like this is the thing to do that is outdated now or becoming outdated?
Totally the idea of just overusing the same keyword over and over. So we've definitely talked a little bit about that in multiple ways. For example, the way you write a website, people still think that SEO success is just repeating the same word the most. Nashville wedding photographer, Nashville wedding photographer, Nashville wedding photographer. I'm going to put that phrase in the alt text of every image on my website. That's how I win. That's an outdated strategy because it really doesn't best serve the actual visitor to your website, which is what Google wants us to be doing. And so I don't recommend just endlessly fixating on one phrase. It's really easy to be like, my whole world would be solved if I ranked on page 1 for Nashville wedding photographer. But there are actually so many things that people search for your business. No matter what your business is, I promise you, there are 1,000 different keywords that people are searching for that could be relevant to your services, your business, the advice that you have to offer. And so don't just fixate on one keyword phrase and think that that's your only way to SEO success.
Yeah, I love that. And is there any like new strategy you feel like we should know about or try that you don't see done or talked about that much?
Actually creating things that are unique and interesting, and that show a personal experience with what you're writing about. I think so many of us try to sound like we are some sort of like major publication or website. And so we don't write things that sound personal. We don't write things that have our own opinion or perspective in them. And that's actually what Google wants. So my strategy moving forward is to think about what makes the content most helpful and most unique. And yeah, that takes a little more work. This is not an SEO podcast that's about like how easy SEO is necessarily, because it's actually about putting the work in to create high quality things that Google actually wants to drive traffic to. And that takes a little bit of thought and being unique and being creative. But as a content creator, it's totally possible. And it is something that can pay off with that traffic over years. So it's a great thing to do.
I love that. It almost feels like going back to like the original idea of a blog, which was like sharing your opinion about something. But I feel like sometimes you're saying we get away from that and we're like, we must sound like more professional and more like just the facts. But like, I love how you're saying like put your perspective into it and have that freedom to like think that way about your writing. Okay, I have a few rapid fire questions for you before we close out. So first one, what's your unpopular SEO strategy opinion? We might have already touched on what this might be for you, but do you have anything else?
Ooh, I have one that I come back to all the time, and that is that consistency in blogging is overrated. So I think this would be a popular opinion if people knew it. But here's the thing. There's so many people. Actually, a client told me this yesterday. I don't have a blog because I don't think I could be consistent with it. And I'm like, just put one up. I do not care if you don't write in it for 6 months. Put it up, put 2 blog posts in it right now if that's what you have time for. You can let it go stale, but that content will be at least there on your website working for you to help Google understand your services and rank you for more keywords. And then you can come back to it when you have time to write another article. But don't let the fear of not being able to be consistent keep you from blogging or creating content at all.
I love that. That's what I tell people too about email marketing. If like people are afraid to like make an opt-in or free because like, well, I'm not going to email my list every week. It's like, well, just make the opt-in and like start building some emails and then you can email them later, like when you're ready to like really utilize that list. Yes, I love that. Okay, a software tool that we should check out for our SEO, maybe a plugin or even something else similar like Uber Suggest that we should try.
I was going to say Uber Suggest. I love Uber Suggest. I think it is like the best and least expensive SEO tool to just play around with keywords a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff in Uber Suggest, but I say just go straight to the keyword overview section and use it to find out how many searches are done per month for a keyword and then to get some related keyword ideas. It is the best 10 minutes you'll spend thinking about SEO is giving that a try.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Best business book you've read that's impacted you.
I read this one so long ago. I was going to say in college and how many years that was, but I am not going to say that. So I read this book years ago. It's called Setting the Table, and it's by Danny Meyer, who is the founder of Union Square Hospitality Group and Shake Shack. And it's all about hospitality in business and going above and beyond it with hospitality for your customers. And I've probably read it 3 times, and I just think it's wonderful.
Oh my gosh. I need to check that out. I like love Shake Shack. So I'm like, I did not know the creator of Shake Shack has a book. Like, that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. And it's so good. Shake Shack's also my favorite burger. Like, it's no contest. Don't tell me In-N-Out. Don't tell me anything else. Shake Shack is the best burger ever.
Yes. We like just got one here not that long ago, and it's very close to our house. And so we go quite frequently.
That's dangerous.
Yes. Yes, it really is. Okay, I love that, Sara. Okay, tell everyone where they can find you and connect with you.
Well, I am at saradoesseo.com is where you'll find all the information about services, all sorts of blog posts about SEO. I hang out a lot on Instagram at Sara Does SEO, and I'm dipping my toe into TikTok as well. So your favorite
you had
platform.
A video go viral.
I did. It was very random, and it was actually not about SEO at all, which was frustrating, but I find it interesting. So I'm playing with that a little bit now.
Tell everyone what the viral video was about. I think that's funny and interesting.
So I actually got I won a trip to a destination wedding venue. It's actually pretty close to me. And while I was there, I was like, oh, I'll collect some video to make a reel when I get home. So I just did a bunch of like short video clips. And I found myself a couple months later in a TikTok challenge where I had to post a video every day. So it was a Sunday night. I'm sitting on my couch and I'm like, I have to post a TikTok today. Like, what's on my phone already that I could just kind of slice together and make a TikTok video? And I had all of these clips I intended for a reel. So I put it together into a TikTok video that was about the wedding venue, kind of a walkthrough. And I just posted it and was like, whatever. And it was several days later. I'm sitting on the couch again, looking at my phone, and it's like, 10,000 people just liked your TikTok video and 20,000 people just saved it to their favorites. And it was bananas.
It's the most random things that end up getting picked up and you're like, wait, why couldn't this be about my business?
Totally.
That's really cool though. Okay, Sarah, thank you so much. I mean, this was so helpful. I feel like I learned a lot, especially talking about like what's trending in the AI stuff. I thought that was super, super fascinating. So hope everyone enjoyed this. And seriously, thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge with us.
Absolutely. Thanks everyone for listening. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode all the way until the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my website template shop too. Over on ElizabethMcCravey.com, you'll find Showit website templates that are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you book more clients and customers. Maybe your current website is really boring. Maybe it's a challenge to update, and maybe even it's that thing that you really feel like is just completely holding your business back. Your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers, and that's exactly what my M-Shop templates do. So these are pre-made Showit website templates where you can plug and play your content into it with ease and then get started with a website that's designed to actually help you make more money. These templates are designed to be SEO friendly on the back end, and they're not just pretty, but they are very strategic and with all the strategies I teach on this podcast. And best of all, they're easy for you to set up all by yourself. So shop them at ElizabethMcCravey.com/shop and come join the M-Shop family of hundreds of happy customers. And as an added perk, you can use the code BBPodcast at checkout to get 10% off any template as a thank you for being a part of the podcast family. So that's BB Podcast for 10% off any template over at ElizabethMcCravey.com. And if you love this podcast, don't forget that you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts so that you never miss an episode, and leave a rating and review for the show wherever you're listening. Share it with a friend, share it on Instagram or Facebook. That's a great way to support the podcast and get the word out. All right, I'll be back next week with another new episode.